suddenly the monster's hand was attacked by something. Joseph said, "Are you sacrificing humans for the summoning? Either way, it's irrelevant because you'll fail." Lord Cobalt looked at Joseph and said, "You are an intruder, you must be the Cobalt Lord, you look exactly like the scum leader." The monster became angry and said, "I am Callum, king of all kobolds. Show some respect, human." Joseph says, "You are too arrogant for a monster on the first floor. Why don't you shut up? I think our hero has some daddy issues." The Dakibi girl did not understand what was going on because the Kobold Lord was distracted by humans. So she took this opportunity to run away, but the Kobold Lord noticed her and asked the death-watching demon to give him strength. He shot a corpse spear at the girl. The Dakibi slipped and fell. She prayed to God that she did not want to die. Here, Joseph arrives and protects our newly emerged waifu from the corpse spear. The monster was shocked to see that his attack had just been kicked away by Joseph. The girl thanked Joseph and he told her to get out of here to save herself. Now he noticed the horn on her head and asked her, "Are you a Dakibi?" Joseph believes that Dakibi are powerful species that live on the 100th floor. There is no reason for them to fall below that level, especially for an individual who has not even reached adulthood. Joseph wondered something happened on the 100th floor, and I intended to save it to get some information later. The Kobold Lord angrily said, "How dare you interfere with my offering to my demon lord?" Joseph told the girl that if she wanted to live, she should hide somewhere. "I won't save her life twice," she agreed and ran away. The Kobold Lord said, "Why don't you stop these things?" As he used his magic to explode the bodies of the Kobold soldiers. Joseph easily avoids all the explosions and says, "You're too slow." He then punches the Kobold Lord and says that his control is too poor. The Kobold Lord fell to the ground and wondered how a climber on the first floor could have such strength. Joseph jumped on him again and said, "What are you doing? We're just getting started." The monster asks the death-watching demon to give him power in exchange for his offerings. Suddenly, all the blood he sacrificed began to move and it engulfed Joseph's hand. We see that the Kobold Lord was able to summon a blood golem thanks to the demon's power. Joseph was confused as he wondered how that bastard summoned such a high-level demonic beast. The blood golem threw him against the wall. The Kobold Lord laughed and said, "Do you like this being my strongest summon yet?" Joseph furiously asked, "Do you know who you are talking to right now? Let me show you what a real summons is." Suddenly, all the souls summoned by Joseph entered the blood golem's body and broke it from the inside. The Kobold Lord was shocked to see him destroy his golem in the blink of an eye. Joseph said that even if you were a lord, a monster blood golem was not something a kobold could create. That's your job, right? The demon who observes death, or we can say the bunny, and the demon accepts his wrongdoing. Joseph now angrily says that because you are curious about my powers as is a spirit master, so you summoned a golem when you saw me fighting a demon. Of your followers. Joseph now walks towards the Kobold Lord and says that you are just an item toys are played with. Your mana is now depleted since Bone was forced to summon the golem, it cannot be helped. The Kobold Lord cries in pain that he will find you and he will take revenge for me even if I die. In response, Joseph said, "Be sure that he does, anyway, I have a lot to say to him." The spirits captured the Kobold Lord in the air. Joseph then tells Bon that this is your last toy, it's your fault for testing me, so don't be complacent. Then he became angry and said, "I will make you pay for testing me in the first place." The demon smiled sincerely, because he likes these types of people. Joseph then kills the Kobold Lord. The Kobold Lord's soul now tries to flee, but it is captured by Joseph, who turns it into a soul sphere. Producing soul orbs is one of the basic skills of a necromancer. A skill that allows the user to collect souls and create usable potions. Joseph then ate the soul orb made from the Cobalt soul. The soul ball is not as good as he thought. Now Dakibi thanks him for saving her, and she tells him that her name is Haru. Joseph replied, "Don't worry, I just happened to be here because I needed to take care of the Cobalt Lord." But Haru still insisted on thanking him. Joseph asked, however, "What would you do if I were the bad guy? Can kill or sell a Dakibi like you?" Haru radiates his aura and says that if that happens, I will handle it. Joseph thinks that when it comes to favors and revenge, the Dakibi should make sure that they had to pay back their debt. Joseph then asked, "Why is someone like you who should be on the 100th floor in a place like this?" Haru told me that someone attacked their village on the 100th floor. Joseph was quite shocked to hear this. Dakibi is quite a strong species, even when climbing mountains, it wouldn't be easy to bother them like that. Joseph wondered if it was the work of one of the four great species. Powers giants, magical essence, dragons masters of demonic energy, demons, wings of angels of retribution. They are the four great species in the tower that control everything. Pseudo-Joseph's theory is that they would need to be part of the big four to bother the Dakibi with such disdain, or at least someone with one of those supporting them. Or maybe the 9 stars could who has ties to their guild. Joseph got angry after remembering the name 9 stars and told Haru that he was going from here, and Haru asked where he was going and why. Joseph said, "Are you intend to stay here surrounded by pools of blood?" He hesitantly said, "If possible, I would like to come with you." Joseph thought that even though she was a young Dakibi, letting her join my group would be fine. Not a bad idea. Joseph tells her, "I'll be busy and can't protect you like this," and Haru replies that she can take care of herself. But Joseph taunts her, saying that just a moment ago she was almost killed by a Cobalt Lord. Haru was confused and said it was because I let my guard down. Joseph then reluctantly accepts her onto the team. Joseph looked at his clothes and thought, "I need to buy some new clothes, it would be troublesome if I attracted attention with these bloody clothes." They noticed an equipment icon above the Cobalt Lord's corpse. We now see that Joseph has equipped a new item and is heading out of the castle with her new Haru waifu. A Vulcan suddenly appeared before them and he informed them that he had completed his work and that there were no kobolds left alive in the castle. Joseph asked him about his work, and Haru asked him who this was. Vulcan asked in surprise, "Who are you, young man, and how can you see me?" Haru replied that some Dakibi are highly connected to spirits. Joseph was happy to learn that she was a special Dakibi. Joseph thought he could take advantage of her gluttony and absorb her abilities, but he changed his mind and planned to keep her by his side and train her for the time being. Suddenly, the system creates a monster wave quest because defeating the Lord Monster can cause a monster wave, and it also has a warning that accepting the quest will disable all the safe area on first floor. Noth Vulcan and Haru were surprised to see this wave quest and Haru said that you will not accept it. Joseph replied, "If I had not come, there would have been no point in coming all this way to defeat a lord." The peak evil thought this was too reckless, and other gods and demons were also concerned about his recklessness. The demon observing death told Joseph that he would reward him if he came first in contributions. Joseph says, "I will make a decision whether to forgive you or not after I see the reward." Vulcan said to Joseph, "I can't believe you're actually doing these things. Do you really want to die?" Joseph says he knows you will like it if I die because you will be free, but no, you will still be my servant even after I die. Then he accepts the monster wave, and the system will notify everyone on the first floor that someone has accepted the monster wave. The kobold will now attack the village entrance and momentarily all safe areas on the first floor will be disabled. Inside the safe village on the first floor, everyone was extremely angry at the person who accepted a wave of monsters. The man shouted, "If you have completed the mission, quickly move to the second floor. Once the wave starts, you won't be able to leave, even if you wanted to. Suddenly, a giant gate appeared in front of the village and tons of monsters started pouring out of the gate. All players were extremely scared and thought they would die here, but then the teleportation magic activated in front of the village gate and our hero appeared there with his team. He warns that if anyone touches the monster, he will slaughter them all. The villagers tried to stop them because they were worried that they would die. Joseph then summoned all the spirits to fight. The other players were shocked to see a necromancer, and they wondered how someone got a class while still on the first floor. Haru then asked if she could try for the assassin feat, and Joseph told him to hurry, otherwise, the spirits would not leave any monsters for her. He then uses a pocket space and summons a sword. She then goes into waifu assassin mode and starts killing the kobolds. Joseph looked at her power and thought that sword was definitely no ordinary sword, and as a young Dakibi could wield it with ease. Was she the real target of the invaders? Suddenly, 3 supporting characters appear and rudely ask Joseph, "Who are you?" To control the waves of monsters. In return, Joseph asked them, "Who are you?" The supporting character replied, "I'm Kim Sungti from the White Swallow Society." Kim also told us that the famous 9-star local church Pelin Brothers, the White Swallow Society, was their secondary guild. Joseph got angry and asked, "What have you done, just talking about the Pelin siblings?" The supporting character that Kim is still portraying and saying that my brother is in the White Swallows, we will join when we get to the 10th floor. Then he praised Joseph and said, "You did quite well, skill. If I talked to my brother, I could also tell you," but before he could finish his words, the spirit came from behind and captured him. Joseph then said, "You have a great time, I need some information about them. I will see you when the wave is over, because I have some questions asked for you." Joseph then kicked the side character and said, "Listen, you're not alive. I'm only arguing with you because I need information, so remember to stay away from me." Kim Sungti's subordinates arrived there and asked him what they were going to do now to take revenge, but he shouted in fear, "Run away, we could really die if that bastard catches us again." On the other side, Vulcan and Joseph were wreaking havoc on the monsters. Joseph orders Vulcan to take charge and control all the souls, as he will only focus on fighting. Now they began to summon both the spirits and the skeleton soldiers. On the other side, we see Haru has been surrounded by many monsters. She was clearly tired from fighting so many monsters at once. Suddenly, a monster attacked her from behind and injured her shoulder. She remembered her village being burned and she thought this pain couldn't even be compared to the pain back then. She continued to fight, but she finally reached her limit and suddenly heard a loud bang. She was amazed at the talent of Joseph, who was only a first-level climber and still had a lot of strength left. She tried to gather her strength, because she thought that I needed to follow that person and climb the tower so I could avenge my village. Suddenly she was attacked from behind by a kobold, but before it could do anything, the monster's head flew away in an attack. The attacker was a Vulcan, and he said, "Are you okay, Dakibi boy?" She stood up and asked, "Why did you help me when I was running away from the 100th floor?" "No one tried to help. I'm just glad no one tried to hurt me." She asked, "Are you helping me because you want something from me?" Vulcan replied, "I don't know. Elemental soldiers must obey the orders of the Spirit Master. That's all there is to it." Haru asked what you meant, and Vulcan told him that Joseph himself ordered me to make sure you didn't die and to make sure you accomplished your goal. Vulcan turned around and said I was going, if I don't help him more, he will start scolding me for not working hard enough. Haru activated his pocket space again and thought that Joseph was the only one who helped me in this tower. I will definitely repay this debt. She wears a mask that looks similar to the death-sealing mask from Naruto. She awakens her hidden powers after removing her mask. She went on a killing spree and almost instantly destroyed all the monsters around her. After seeing her power, Joseph confirmed his suspicions that her village's attackers were targeting Haru and that sword, but he decided to keep this information a secret. The system informed me that there was only 1 minute left until the monster wave ended. After hearing this, the three went into berserk mode to kill as many as possible. Joseph kills the last monster by throwing his sword at it, and the gate finally disappears. The system informed them that the wave had ended and they had successfully stopped the wave. Haru started to fall because she used too much strength in the battle, but she was saved by our hero and he said, "Are you okay? You should not use that skill when you are exhausted." She started swooning over him because they were so close, and she thanked him. The system window appears and tells you that there are rewards for the first, second, and third contributors. Joseph said this perfectly, now we are also getting paid. The system tells Joseph that he has defeated over 2,500 monsters, achieved the Cobalt Slayer achievement, and received a reward of all stats increased by 5 and 500 achievement points. Joseph checked his status window and assumed that all stats had increased by 5, although it didn't seem like much and all achievement points would also be used to increase stats. If I learn various skills with all my mastery and gluttony, this number will increase continuously. The system tells us that Joseph contributed the most in this batch, second place goes to Haru, and Vulcan came in third place. He wondered why he got a place in the rankings. Joseph smiled and said, "Bring me that reward." Vulcan agreed, as it was difficult to use the bonus as a spirit warrior. Haru approached them and said, "Please consider mine also as a symbol of our future together." Joseph refused and said, "Sorry, but I have been betrayed before. You can come with me, but I don't trust you." He approached her and said that the reward for second place in the wave is too big a bribe for me to accept without suspecting you. I don't want to be betrayed again. Make me trust you, otherwise I don't want you to come with me anymore. Haru then opened her bag to take out her Dakibi mask, and she suggested to Joseph that he take her mask and gift as well. Vulcan asked in surprise, "Are you planning on giving your Dakibi mask to an outsider?" The Dakibi's mask is essentially the essence of the Dokibi's power, they give it to their partner once in a lifetime when they propose. Joseph asked her, "Why did you give this to me?" Haru replied that it was the price for saving my life twice and proof that I would not betray you. Joseph said that this mask was worth more than that and I felt like there must be another purpose. Haru's expression turned serious and she said she wanted revenge. She added, "I won't tell you the details but my village was burned down. I tried looking for survivors but couldn't find any." She began to cry and said, "As the last surviving Dakibi, I need to avenge my dead kin, so let me climb the tower with you." Joseph feels familiar with her because he is also on the path of revenge. Joseph accepted the offering and said, "I don't care if I don't have this mask, don't think it's your lifeline or anything." Haru smiled through her tears and said, "I'm happy to climb the mountain with you." Joseph now opens his reward and he receives an energy ring, an energy earring and an energy necklace, which in total reduces the energy consumption rate by 45% and helps him 15% energy increase. Vulcan says these are some pretty good items. Haru asks how these are good since they are just energy boosting items. He then explains that it is perfect for mages who use mana to sustain armies as it will allow him to increase the quality and quantity of summoning by 45%. Then he looked up at the sky and said, "How long will you stay, Bon? Do you think I forgot your promise to reward me?" The demon responded and asked him to go somewhere else. When they reached the village, the Vulcans found it quite deserted. Joseph said they probably evacuated to the second floor or the forest because of the waves. Suddenly, a light shone down on the table where they were sitting and an ominous-looking ring appeared there. Joseph looked at it and said, "I'm really lucky with those items today." Vulcan couldn't contain his excitement. "Me, you bastard, what's going on?" Joseph worries that this ring contains evil energy. Demonic energy is the preserve of demons, a power that can be considered a high-grade source of mana. The system displays information about the ring. Its name is Fark Force Ring, and one can use demonic energy when the ring is equipped, although there are limitations. This ring increases the demonic energy index by 10. Normally, to obtain demonic energy, you must become a slave of the demon for it to be given to you. Gradually, the difference between having one to use and not having one is great. After Joseph accepted this reward and equipped the ring, the demon observing death shook his hand. Joseph shook his hand and said, "For such a wonderful item as this, I can forget your joke." But the demon Baal was now burning with jealousy. He was very angry and even asked Joseph to shake his hand. He responded and said to shake hands without giving me anything. "You can bring me a gift if you want to shake my hand." Vulcan says if you're trying to destroy a demon right now, you've definitely lost your mind. The demon Baal became restless as he rummaged through his wardrobe and drawers looking for a reward, but he couldn't find anything, so he said he would create a quest. Joseph was shocked to hear this and asked, "Are you serious?" An excited Vulcan received a quest from a demon. "This is our chance, you bastard." Joseph then agreed to this proposal. Now the system displays the quest given by Baal. The conditions of the quest are to make yourself known throughout the tower before you reach the 100th floor, and the quest's penalty for failure is that Joseph must become an apostle of the devil. But the reward is that Baal will provide the formula for whatever Joseph wants, and the contract fee is to shake hands with Baal. Joseph was excited and came up with the formula for whatever he wanted, and with such a high-level demon, the sky was the limit, but the conditions were quite difficult because he had to become an apostle of Baal if the mission fails. Despite the danger, Joseph still accepted the offer. Demon Baal sent him a series of heart emojis as he shook his hand. Joseph then told his teammates that they were going to catch that bastard Kim Sung-tae and they had to get information out of him. The lazy Joseph then orders Vulcan to capture Kim and tells him that he has sent a soul soldier after him so you can easily track his location. Vulcan accepted this unpleasant request and entered the soul portal. After Vulcan disappeared, Joseph asked Haru, "Why don't we talk while walking?" He then asked about the mask and said, "I want you to tell me more about it." Haru states that this mask allows the user to use their Dakibi abilities. Joseph said, "Isn't the power of Dakibi related to spells and supernatural powers?" Haru affirmed and said that I can also use my supernatural powers and foresight to see into the future. After hearing about foresight, Joseph said that it was a bit of a shame if you gained an ability, it would be great if it helped in battle. After hearing these words, Haru stared at him with big pink eyes. Joseph asked him, "Why are you staring at me like that?" And Haru replied that she thought Joseph was a bit odd. She then told us that people outside the village often travel for days so we can use this ability. They all came to ask the elders who trained it to look into the future. Most of them worry about what might happen in the future and do whatever they can to avoid their fate. Joseph arrogantly replied, "Is it necessary to avoid it? If there's anything to worry about, can't I just break through?" The Dakibi girl smiled and said, "I think my abilities are quite suitable for you." She then tells her that her ability is foresight in battle, an ability specialized for combat. Then she said, "Don't you think I'm quite helpful?" Joseph suddenly comes and hugs her, and we see the girl blush. Joseph remembered those bastards from 9 Stars who specialized in fighting, and he thought that with this ability, he might have a chance to win. The system informed them that lurking gods like Demon Baal were taking pictures of them and the 9-tailed fox was pursing its lips. Joseph was quite angry with them and started cursing at them. On the other side, we see supporting character Kim trapped in a tree by a volcano. He ordered him to stay put until his master arrived, because it was difficult to hold him without killing him. A moment later, Joseph arrived there and drew his sword after hearing Vulcan say that the supporting character had tried to run away. He then interrogates him and gets all the information he has about the 9 stars. Then Joseph let him go, and Vulcan asked why you let him go. The information he received from Kim was that there were many small guilds affiliated with the 9 stars operating from the 100th to the 200th floor. Joseph wanted to destroy all of those small guilds, but Vulcan said it would be quite boring. If you hunt one guild at a time. Joseph said, but this could be beneficial to us because we also have to complete the quest of the Demon Ball, and if we can destroy the guilds influenced by the Pelin siblings, it could bring giving us a considerable amount of reputation. Now on the 2nd floor, we see everyone talking about just 2 people taking out the entire wave of monsters by themselves, and at that moment, Joseph and his group also arrive there. This time, Joseph is hiding his identity with a Dakibi mask. Everyone flocked towards him and started asking questions about him, asking if he belonged to any guilds. Joseph thought that if he revealed his real name to become famous, he would get in trouble, so he told everyone that his name was Ghostface. It is believed that Joseph must have committed a crime before arriving at the tower because there are many cases of people on Earth hiding inside the tower. Joseph was happy that everything was going according to his plan, since it was normal to hide your face or identity in the tower, and he was sure that he had attracted everyone's attention with news about this wave and mask. Joseph and his group then teleported from there without providing any further information to the citizens. We see that they have arrived at a forest. The system welcomes them to the 2nd floor and gives them the task of defeating 10 kobolds and kobold warriors to go to the next floor. The lazy Joseph ordered Vulcan to go on this mission. Vulcan controlled his anger and said, "Do you want me to go and bring these to you alive?" Osef brazenly agreed, and asked to bring Haru's as well. He also added that he was going to experiment with demonic energy and said to come back quickly if you want to see. Vulcan quickly spoke up and said you shouldn't use up all your demonic energy before I get back. Haru innocently says you can complete the quest like this, and Joseph replies, if you don't like it, you can go get them yourself, I don't force you to do this. He then summoned demonic energy using his rings and said, see how well it works. He was able to successfully gather a burst of demonic energy like a fire, and suddenly Haru warned Joseph that there was a kobold behind the bushes. Cobalt rushed forward to warn Joseph to attack him, but Joseph used a demon skill called Demon Contact to attack the monster, but unfortunately the monster dodged the attack and the attack was only grazed him a little. Haru nervously said that the monster had dodged the attack, but Joseph said no, it was an attack that didn't need any effect. Suddenly, the monster started to break apart, like it was made of stone or something. Haru was surprised to see this and asked what was going on, and Joseph told her that demonic energy was a barbaric power, and unqualified people would not be able to handle it. Joseph then captured the kobold soul to begin his experiments. If I infuse demonic energy into a spirit warrior, a stronger spirit warrior will be born. But unfortunately, the soul began to decline because it could not handle such a large amount of demonic energy, so Joseph quickly reduced the demonic energy from 10 to just 1, and with these, Joseph was able to create out a new soul warrior with demonic energy. Haru compliments him and says it seems quite difficult, but Joseph says he's surprised it's that easy. Since there aren't many people who can use pure demonic energy other than demons, there are very few people who know how simple it is to use. Vulcan then arrived there with the captivated monsters, and when he looked at the new soul, he said that this soldier was perfectly merged, a soul soldier with demonic energy, we will call it a demon soul soldier. Vulcan examined the soldier from a closer distance and said, this is perfect, as expected from my student. Joseph then realized that whenever he or a Vulcan captured a soul, he had to personally infuse it with demonic energy, and doing so would be very difficult in the field. Then he looked at the Vulcans and wondered if I needed to summon them myself. Joseph now tells Vulcan that when it comes to summoning, he is more proficient. He even praised Vulcan's ability to command and position summons in battle as excellent, and then he suddenly spread demonic energy throughout Vulcan. He cried in pain and asked Joseph what the hell he was trying to do. Joseph said if I infused demonic energy into Vulcan's soul, wouldn't the spirit warriors he summoned also automatically become demonic warriors? He then added to Vulcan, since your soul is stronger than the Cobalt soul, I will use all the demonic energy I have. A large amount of demonic energy formed around Vulcan after Joseph used his full power. Haru asked worriedly what would happen to him, but Joseph said not to overreact, the first spiritual master wouldn't die because of something like this. Vulcan angrily says if I get through this, I will crush you and drink you for breakfast, but Joseph confidently says if you are strong enough to challenge me, I will welcome it. Vulcan was eventually transformed into a demon soul soldier. Vulcan's first words were, "You made a mistake, Joseph. Summoning more powerful than you is your biggest mistake as a necromancer." Joseph equips the mask and says that after all, I need an opponent who can match me with that mask. Vulcan summons a series of new demon soldiers. Joseph activated the mask's power, and he felt the soldier suddenly slow down, but then he realized that it was only him who felt the world getting slower. This is what Haru sees in everyday life. Joseph then quickly destroyed all the monsters and punched Vulcan in the face. Vulcan fell to the ground and caused a huge impact. Haru was worried about him, but Joseph said, "Don't worry. The soul will not die from such physical attacks." Haru then asked Joseph if he used the mask's power. He agreed and said that it seemed like everything was slower than me. It was like I became the greatest fighter for a moment. Haru said that this phenomenon was just a side effect of the skill being faulty. Joseph was confused and asked, if this is a side effect, what effect does this mask have? Haru says I told you it worked as battle foresight, right? Not only do enemies become slower, but you can also see their future actions. Joseph held her shoulders and asked how I could get to that point, but she said I could only do it instinctively. Joseph thought she must be a genius, even among the Dakibis. Haru then asked Joseph if Giles was dizzy or something, and Joseph said he was fine. He said that if an untrained Dakibi tried to use a special ability, most of them would experience symptoms such as headaches and dizziness. She then said that the same rule applies to me. I couldn't use foresight when I wanted to and I was worried because we couldn't even activate the skill. Joseph said you're very good at hitting where it hurts the most. Haru said humorously, that's not what I meant. I'm sure you'll be able to use it soon. After this defeat, Joseph realized that he had been too excited about becoming incredibly strong on the second floor. On the other side, we see Vulcan being very gloomy because of his failure and thinking, he is the greatest spirit master. How did I get to this point? Haru walks towards him, and Vulcan misunderstands her feelings. He hugs her and starts crying, saying that unlike that bastard Joseph, you came here to make me feel better, but Haru says she's here because they need him to summon soul soldiers from the kobolds they will kill to complete their quest. Just like that, they were able to quickly complete both the third and fourth floors. Now on the fifth floor, we see people talking about rumors about a guy calling himself Ghostface. It was rumored that he had been in the tower for 3 days. He had already passed the fourth floor and entered the forest on the fifth floor. The other person said not to worry, he can only deal with the kobolds because from the fifth floor onwards, goblins that can use powerful poison needles will start to breed. Now we see Joseph doing something with his mana. On the ground, a goblin was secretly hiding in a tree, and it shot its poisonous needle at Joseph, but Haru cut the needle before it could reach him. A very evil smile appeared on her face as she said, "You dare attack my Joseph Vulcan," then sent a spirit warrior to finish off the Vulcan goblin, then praised Haru for stopping the poisonous needle, but he was shocked when he saw her expression. She had a very cruel smile as she held her sword. Vulcan then asked her if she was okay, and she regained consciousness. Even she was shocked as to why she was smiling while holding the sword. Then Joseph stood up and said, "I am ready, and there will be a terrible wave tonight." Now we see that in the past, the day before they entered the 5th floor, Joseph told his group that there would be goblins instead of kobolds on the next floor, and they would aim for the title of Demon Slayer Pure. Haru asks if they will have to hunt the monster lord again. Vulcan tells him you can't hunt it just because you want to, no one knows when it will appear and on what floor. Joseph said, "I won't hunt the goblin lord because I know the method of creating waves manually." Both of them were shocked and they heard that Joseph could create a wave with his hands. Vulcan points out that if such a method existed, a rumor would spread in the tower. Joseph told him that he could only find it by chance. Joseph said that around the time I was hunting around the edge of the 400th floor, a crack appeared as I was climbing the tower. That's when I discovered it. He further explains that on each floor there is a central area that spawns monsters. If you find it and keep pouring your mana into it, it will create monsters similar to monster waves. Vulcan says that you must have benefited quite a bit from this information, but Joseph says that this is the first time he's used this method because monsters from the 300th floor and above are on a different scale than goblins. Even if it were 4 large species, it would be impossible to stop the monster head-on when a wave occurred. Vulcan says that while it is possible to exploit it, you do not know when you discovered it and cannot exploit it. Joseph agreed and said that now is different as we will create as many waves as possible to get stronger faster. Now back to the present, the player on the 5th floor feels the shaking of an earthquake. A giant portal appeared, similar to what happened on the 2nd floor, and a large number of goblins began rushing out of the portal. The players started running away because they couldn't fight such a huge number of goblins and were also helpless against them. Suddenly, Joseph appeared there and said that the uninjured person should take the injured person to safety. Everyone was happy to see that the ghostly face had appeared, as he had defeated a wave before. Joseph planned this special because he wanted to spread rumors about him. He then summoned all of his new demon spirit soldiers to attack. After the battle began, Joseph noticed his demonic soldiers were on fire. The culprits responsible for this are the spiritual goblins. Joseph told Vulcan that they must first get rid of those spiritual elves, otherwise, they will not be able to complete the raid. Haru arrives on the scene and begins exterminating the monsters. On the other side, Joseph absorbed the corpse of a spiritual goblin with his gluttony skill, so he could absorb the fire skill, which could even affect the spirits. He then used the soul fire skill to instantly destroy all the goblins around him. But suddenly, Haru's sword began to emit a huge amount of energy and out of nowhere, a suit appeared on his body. She then suddenly attacked Joseph with her sword. Joseph now equips the Dakibi mask and he activates foresight during battle. The intuition he cultivated while climbing the 599 floors told him that the sword she was holding was dangerous. Joseph prepared himself to attack by saying that there were no eternal friends or enemies in the tower and that this was the end for Haru, but he suddenly remembered the smiling face and hesitated for a moment. The possessed Haru stops the attack with just one hand, and Joseph realizes that Haru is also using foresight in his battle. Joseph is now angry and summons a series of goblin skeletons from the ground. The goblins surrounded Haru and tried to stop her movements, but Haru severed the entire skeleton with a single sword strike. Joseph was so shocked that the attack was so fast that he didn't even see the cuts made by the skeleton soldiers. Joseph saw Haru feeling pain and her eyes starting to bleed, then he remembered about using the skill again. Haru is suddenly shot by a poisonous needle from a zombie, and we see that it was Joseph who used his skill to summon a zombie goblin and use it to attack. Haru was now unconscious and her equipment was also gone. Joseph catches her and lands her safely on the ground. He then orders the zombie to get the poison darts. He absorbs poison darts with his gluttonous abilities and gains tolerance to the paralyzing poison. In Haru's consciousness, we see the sword floating above her, then a strange Takibi appears there and asks her, "Are you the new owner of this Dragon Slayer sword?" Takibi smiled and told Haru that he was just a child. She asked him, "Takibi, who are you?" And the man replied that she was half right and half wrong. Then he suddenly appeared behind her, put the sword around her neck and said, "Let me warn you about something. Next time you pull out my shell without warning, I will swallow you whole." Back in reality, she wakes up from her sleep to find Joseph carrying her on his back. She then asked where they were and Joseph told her that they were in the village on the 6th floor. She was suddenly confused and started blushing as she asked, "Why are you carrying me on your back, Joseph?" Then asked, "Don't you remember anything?" Joseph now rented a room, put her to bed and said, "After checking our equipment and stamina on the 6th floor here, we will move directly to the 10th floor. In the tower, every 10 floors there's a big city again, and to enter the city you need to fight a boss monster." Haru says that she knows this monster is a great orc warrior, and Vulcan says that considering its fighting prowess alone, it is essentially a lord monster. Haru then hesitantly says that as soon as we are healed, we will all go, but Joseph denies it and says from now on you will move independently of us. Haru was shocked to hear this and said, "What do you mean? Orabioni, are you abandoning me?" Joseph said no, "But you don't remember what happened on level 5 during the wave, do you?" He affirmed and said, "Yes, my memories end at a certain point. Joseph told me that her sword was the Devil's Sword. It has skills comparable to the Ego Sword. It corrodes the user's mind while instead giving it incredible power." Joseph further told her that she attacked him after losing her mind. He then concluded and said that if you depend on such an unstable power source, you will collapse before we reach the 100th floor, so this is your homework. No need to rely on the power of that sword, climb up to the 10th floor yourself. Haru smiled happily and said, "Okay, I will definitely become strong enough to become your worthy comrade." We now see that Joseph gave her a cloak to hide her Takibi identity. Joseph then told her that there was no need to rush because he had some things to take care of on the 10th floor, so he would be there for a while. Haru said confidently, "I will catch up with you soon." A few days later, on the 9th floor, we saw a pile of dead goblins lying there, and the person responsible for this was our Joseph. He was currently fighting an orc, and he easily defeated him using his battle prediction skills. Vulcan appeared from behind and said, "It seems you have mastered this skill." Joseph said not to forget to withdraw their souls, "We need orc demon soul soldiers." Vulcan looked around and said it seemed like creating waves was just part of our natural path. Joseph asked if he was complaining. Vulcan said no, "I really liked it." Vulcan said, "I can't believe how cold you are. You never mentioned anything about Haru." Joseph said, "What are you talking about? I wouldn't accept her as an ally if I thought she would fail. She is strong and she will do anything to get revenge." Joseph ordered him to go and bring more orcs with him so he could claim his title as an assassin. Vulcan was angry and said, "Don't you respect your elders? Don't you have parents?" Joseph replied, "That's right, I don't have parents, so what?" Vulcan was a bit confused because he didn't expect this answer. Joseph said, "I was an orphan raised in an orphanage, and Choi Kyung-hoon, the fighting star, was also in the same orphanage." Vulcan starts acting excessive and says, "I can see why you're such an asshole. Let me give you a hug." After receiving the title of assassin, they went to the testing room located on the 10th floor. The system welcomes Joseph and says that you must defeat the boss monster to enter the center of the 10th floor. If you fail, you will be forced to return to the 9th floor. Vulcan then notices a board recording the record of housekeeping was the fastest in this room, and he found that they all happened in less than 1 minute. Joseph taunts Vulcan and says, "It looks like your name isn't there." Vulcan replied that your name was not written there either and that most of the records were of members of the 4 great species. They are born with unimaginable skills. Joseph asked, what about this? Why don't we break the record today? Vulcan also smiled evilly and said, that sounds good. The system informed Joseph that the test was being prepared, and Joseph wondered if he also had time to prepare. The system told Joseph he had 1 minute to prepare. Joseph makes a plan and says, Vulcan, use your demon soul soldiers to stop the boss from moving. It spawned and they both summoned all their souls. Joseph then used the magic circle and created a magic spear. And he also enchants the spear with demonic energy. After preparing everything they could, they got in position to initiate an attack as soon as a monster spawned. Now the Orc Lord appears with a huge axe in his hand. Vulcan quickly sends the demon spirit to hold the monster. Joseph aims the spear directly at the monster's head, which kills the monster in an instant. The system tells him that they have broken the record for taking the shortest time to complete the 10th floor, and the system asks if he would like to enter his name. Joseph says, let's go with the name Ghostface. The system notifies everyone that the 10th floor clear record has been updated. The best record is only 0.96 seconds and the climber's name is Ghostface. The payers started talking about how the best record on the 10th floor wasn't even a second long. Haru is also shocked to learn that this new climber's name is Ghostfaced. When she realized he was Joseph, she smiled and thought she needed to work harder to catch up. Back in the testing room, Vulcan was so excited to see that they had broken the records of the 4 major species. Joseph said, let us go, we still have a lot of work to do on floor 10. The system informed Joseph that when he reached floor 10, all his stats would increase by 5 and the new auction system would be unlocked. Somewhere in the room, we see a man seeing all the information available about the ghost face. The 10th floor contains the first major city the climbers will visit and it is where the portal back to Earth is located. Thus, those who gave up or stopped climbing gained the right to trade and eventually created the largest city among the first 100 floors inside the tower. Joseph sold the rest of his loot and bought some potions and other consumables. As they went further, they only heard of one company name, like Gold Lich Foods or Gold Lich Workshop. They even heard someone inviting them to rest at the Gold Lich Inn. Vulcan couldn't contain his curiosity and said, hey bastard, what is a Gold Lich? Joseph said, oh, I thought you wouldn't know the Gold Lich Company, they are the leading company in the tower that appeared a few years ago. Vulcan asked what the Gold Lich was, and Joseph said it was someone's name, the richest man in the tower, the Gold Lich. We do not know his real name, but he possessed an unimaginable amount of gold, and it was said that almost everything that circulated in the tower passed through his hands. Vulcan then said, what is the work you want to complete on the 10th floor? Joseph said, yes, I will find a sponsor. Vulcan curiously asks who you want to be your sponsor. Joseph brags and says you're looking at all our sponsor logos now. Joseph was shocked and said, you mean your sponsor? And Joseph said, yes, I will have Gold Lich as a sponsor. Inside the Gold Lich Company branch, we see a woman welcoming everyone and she says that anything with monetary value can be sold and bought here, like weapons, loot, potions or information. Anything can be sold or bought here at Gold Lich Company. Joseph then took a standby ticket and waited for his turn. Then, at counter number 18, the receptionist said, I'm Halcyon, in charge of the 3rd counter. How can I help you today? Joseph said, I want to buy something. Halcyon asked his name, but Joseph took off his mask and said, is this my identity? Halcyon is shocked and says that the mask belongs to the ghost's face. Joseph said, please keep your voice down. Don't you think there's a reason why I walk around wearing a mask? Joseph then took out the money and said there was a total of 3,000 gold that I got from the waves. Halcyon asked, what are you trying to buy with this money? Joseph said, I want to buy a meeting with Gold Lich. He was shocked to hear this and thought, is this bastard crazy? It is true that he is a scoundrel outside the tower. Finally, Joseph said, what's the matter? You said anything can be bought and sold here. Halishan said she was sorry, but the deal couldn't be done. Joseph asked why this was so, and Halishan replied that there were two reasons. First, the Gold Lich was very busy, and second, the amount of money he offered was very small. 3,000 gold is a lot, but it's nothing compared to the value of Mr. Gold Lich's time. Joseph thought about something for a moment and then asked me how much I should pay for a meeting with the manager here. After a while, Joseph will meet with the manager, and Vulcan says what a horrible person you are for asking some random employee to meet with the head of the company. Joseph asked, do you have any other ideas on how I can meet Gold Lich? If you do, I will accept your criticism. Now Joseph knocked on the door and asked permission to enter, and the manager allowed him to enter the room. A man said, I am the puppet director of the 10th floor branch of the Gold Lich company. Nice to meet you, super rookie. The manager says you want to see Mr. Gold Lich. Joseph said yes, but it seemed like he wasn't here. The manager said, I'm sorry, but the amount you offered is quite low. Joseph said, what about this? Call him first, he will definitely become my sponsor once he meets me. The manager says you are betting with your arrogance. Now the manager added, I have heard a lot about you, but I feel unhappy when I hear you talk about him so casually. The manager created a thread in his hand with his skill and said, with my characteristics, I can control the person entangled in my thread at will. I'm sorry, but you have to leave. Joseph quickly grasped all the thoughts around him and said, I also bet on your arrogance. Is this still not enough? The manager was shocked because he thought Joseph had just disabled my skill that worked on climbers on the 180th floor. How does the manager control himself and use a magic skill? The next moment we saw both of them standing in a clearing and the manager said, I'm sure this is the first time you're seeing this. Joseph laughed and said this was the realm of the mind, a new infinite realm created by separating our souls and minds from our bodies. The manager was shocked again and wondered how someone who climbed to the 10th floor would know about the world of the mind. The manager said, I'm sure you know that the laws of reality do not apply here in a dimension where you have to use your experience and the strength of your soul to fight. The manager activated his skill and said that if you beat me in a fight, I will try to arrange a meeting with Mr. Gold Lich for you. Joseph, who was strangled in the ropes, said that if it is about the power of an experience and a soul, then you are no match for me. Joseph said, you still don't know that your characteristics don't match mine, do you? He then escaped from all those ropes and landed on the water. The manager wondered, how could someone climbing the 10th floor break my skills? He possessed the mental strength of at least a 200-level climber. The manager said, okay, I admit that you are my equal. Suddenly, a large number of puppets emerged from the water and surrounded Joseph from all sides. The manager said that this was a skill called Puppet Army. In your mind, practical experience is your strength. These are the puppets I have obtained from my experience climbing the floors above floor 100. I have remodeled the product so that it strengthens when I channel mana, and these enhanced puppets are powerful like the person climbing the 50th floor. The manager laughed maniacally and said that as soon as you entered the mind realm, the winner was decided. Now the entire puppet army attacks him together, making him unable to move. The manager said that the pain in the mind does not reflect in the real world, so please rest assured. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurred behind the manager, sending all the puppets flying. The manager quickly turned around and wondered what kind of magic ghost face used. The cause of this explosion was a giant skeleton. The manager quickly recognized and assumed that this was a Lich mage. Why is the boss monster on the 100th floor here? We see that Joseph has returned to his original form before his death, and he says that even if it is a materialization of the mental realm of someone who has died, it takes time. Joseph then pointed to his massive army of the undead and said, "This is what a real army looks like." Joseph then repeated the dialogue and said that the moment we entered the spirit world, the winner was decided. The warden looked at the army and recognized the Lich, the Dullahan, and other monsters whose names he did not know. He wondered if they were the boss's messengers from the 100th floor. The manager lost his temper and said, "Who are you, ghost face?" Joseph then ordered his army to attack the manager. The next moment, he opened his eyes to the real world while sweating profusely. The manager wondered how he came back from the mental realm, and he realized that Joseph was the one overseeing the mental realm. Then Joseph said, "Stop being a coward and get up. You haven't forgotten our bet, have you? You need to show me the yellow lich." Joseph then gave a letter to the manager and said, "Make sure to deliver it to the Gold Lich." The manager was worried and said, "Of course I have no right to say this because I lost, but if there is no reply there is nothing I can do." Joseph confidently said, "Don't worry, there will definitely be an answer." Now the manager comes to the gate to say goodbye to him. "When I receive a response I will contact your accommodation." Vulcan now says that the sky has begun to set. "Shall we go back to our accommodation and rest?" Joseph said, "What are you talking about? We need to head to our next destination." Vulcan said we needed to go somewhere else, and Joseph said, "Wouldn't it be ineffective to just wait until the good Lich arrives?" We now move to the house of the White Swallow Guild. There were two girls sitting at the reception desk. One asked another, "How did you climb to the 57th floor?" And she said, "What stupid bastard would barge into the main door of the guild affiliated with the Holy Country?" At the same time, the main door was opened by a strange man. Both girls welcomed this new guest and asked him why he was here today. The new guy, or should we say Joseph, smiled and said that raiding the tower is too difficult, so I want to join a guild. The women felt relieved after hearing this, and then they realized that if they introduced someone new to the guild members as a referral, they could receive a large amount of power. The girl hesitantly asked if perhaps he had an introduction or if someone had guided him here. Joseph reluctantly said, "I came here because this is a branch of a large guild." Both girls laughed evilly when they thought Joseph was new and didn't know anything. The blonde asked him to show off some of his skills. Joseph then asked them to lend him a coin. Then he bent the coin using just two of his fingers. They were both shocked to see a newcomer like him so strong that he could bend a coin with just his fingers. Joseph then innocently says that he can also perform some basic magic. He casts a fire spell and creates a small flame in his palm, and he says he can perform basic spells such as lighting fires. The girls were shocked. Then Joseph said that he had many small talents. They told each other that his current skills were no longer important. If they make him study under them, he can become a tycoon. The blonde girl added that this new man is also very handsome. The other girl was shocked when she said that your preferences in men are like this. Joseph, on the other hand, thought he had bought enough time. Suddenly, a huge commotion happened outside. A guard came and informed them that a spirit monster was going crazy outside and was destroying the village. All those who climbed above the 50th floor were summoned. The girls ordered Joseph to wait there until they returned after resolving this matter. Joseph now wears a mask and thinks it's time to become a ghost face. From the outside we see someone destroying buildings in the village. Normal attacks have no effect on these spirits, and the spirit is revealed to be none other than our own Vulcan. But he's really bad at acting, and he's also quite embarrassed about it. He said, "I will never forget Joseph, who brought shame to the first spiritual master." Inside the building, the guard is being spanked by Joseph. He then interrogated a soldier about the list of guilds affiliated with the Holy Kingdom. Joseph then checked the list of all the guilds affiliated with the Holy Kingdom and served as their agent. Joseph burned down the entire office and said that he would slowly destroy this entire cabal. In an unknown place, we see Gold Lich working, and he checks a report from the 10th floor's branch manager. He notices an additional letter with the report, and he wonders what the reason is that the branch manager sent the letter separately. After reading the letter, he shouts in disbelief, "How could Ghostface know about this?"